feel dirty south, dirty, dirty. Can y'all really feel the East Coast feel West Coast feel dirty south, dirty, dirty. Can y'all really feel me? Feel the East Coast feel. Say what?
Hey guys, and welcome back. It's me, Lydia Marie. Welcome back to the channel. Today, you guys, I want you to grab your makeup, grab your tools, and follow along because makeup class is in session. Today, we're talking all things powder. Powder can be a little bit intimidating sometimes. You might not know where to put it, what kind to use. What is the difference between a pressed powder, a loose setting powder, and a finishing powder? We're going to get into all the details today, and I'm going to be showing you some of my favorite ones to use that I've been loving and that work on my mature skin. So if you're interested to see this video that is all about powders, I hope that you will keep watching. Hi to my new subscribers. Welcome to the Beauty Fam. So glad to have you guys here, and welcome to those of you who come back day after day. I truly appreciate you also. Let's go ahead and get into this powder informational video. Powder is an essential part of any makeup application, whether you're just using your loose powder or if you're somebody who likes a pressed powder or only likes to wear powder foundation. A good powder application can either make or break your makeup. Sometimes you put on powder in the wrong one or the wrong formula for your skin, and it can totally change the look of your makeup. Other times when you're using it just right, it's really going to give you that nice finished polished look to your makeup application. So what is the difference between a loose powder, a finishing powder, and a pressed powder? Let's go ahead and discuss. I'm going to show you guys the ones that I like to use the most, and then we're going to go over the differences. Loose setting powders like this one from Laura Mercier, these are the powders that are used to set your cream products. So you'll often see when you have on concealer, you're going in with a loose powder to go in and set the concealer in place. That's literally what a setting powder does. It doesn't add pigment. It doesn't finish off your makeup in any kind of way. It just sets the makeup in place so it doesn't move. Oftentimes you'll see a translucent shade like this one from Laura Mercier. It doesn't have color in it, which means it won't change the color of your makeup, especially under your eye. I have a hard time with some translucent powders or some setting powders under my eye changing the color of my concealer. It'll either make it gray or brown depending, so I have to be very selective of what I use under my eye. But you can go in with a powder brush of some sort and tap some off and then set it around your smile lines like I do. I like to set on my chin and right about here, but under my eye I use something like a muff like this one from Laura Mercier. I use this because it gives a little bit more coverage, and under my eye is where I like my concealer to set and stay in place. And I simply do, you have seen me do that before, take that and just dab it under my eye, and that gives me the blurring, the setting, and it locks my concealer in place. My top setting powders are all loose powders. I love the Laura Mercier Ultra Blur, which you guys know. I use this in the shade Honey. So even though this is in the shade Honey, it has the same as my skin tone. It still does not add a lot of pigment to my makeup. Even after I use it under my eye or on my cheeks, it does not add a lot of pigment. And that's the thing with loose powders. They're not meant to add a lot of pigment to your face. They're just going to add some setting. So if you have a darker skin tone, you can get something from the Laura Mercier that's a little bit darker, but it's still not going to add pigment to your makeup, thereby changing the complete look of it. But it's used to set it into place. So you might want something that's not translucent, so you don't have any flashback with photos and things like that. I also like the Wet n Wild Photo Finish Banana Powder. This is from the drugstore. This is a very good loose finely milled powder. It doesn't give me any flashback or any cakiness under my eye, which is super important for me because I have a dry under eye. And lastly, I really love the Prism Libre Givenchy powder. This is the quad for a loose setting powder. This color corrects and blurs and sets my concealer perfectly. It has a slightly matte finish, but more of a natural matte, not so drying perfect for mature skin. Moving on to pressed powders. Pressed powders also come in a compact like this or something like this. They are finely milled as well. They're a little bit lightweight, but these are really used to control your oil and your shine. If you have a more oily T-zone like I do, a little bit of combination, or where I tend to get sweaty, this is where a pressed powder would come into play. You can also use a pressed powder as a setting powder as well. I personally would not put this type of pressed powder under my eye because I have a drier under eye, but if you don't, feel free to use a pressed powder under your eye because it can act as a setting powder, especially if you have oily skin. Pressed powders are really good for that because they're formulated to control the oil. You can use it in the same way with a muff or with a brush, and I still take the same and just lightly go over where I sweat, which is right here and a little bit in my forehead, but these can be used as setting powders as well. I don't have as many of these as I do the loose setting powder because I prefer the loose ones. They're a little bit more forgiving on my mature skin. The two pressed powders that I really enjoy using when I do use them is the Fashion Fair. This is the Golden Luxe pressed powder. I really do enjoy this one because it's so lightweight. When you think of Fashion Fair, you know Fashion Fair is an old school makeup brand who has recently rebranded, and they came back with some stellar products. This one can be used as a foundation if you like, but I really just like it on the days when I'm like wearing concealer and I don't want anything else. I just go around and touch it up around my mouth, and it really just gives me a nice finish, and again, controls any oil. Also, a less affordable one is from ColourPop. This is their Pretty Fresh pressed powder with hyaluronic acid. This one is very lightweight. It feels like velvet. So when I do apply this on the middle of my forehead or anything like that, and I just take it in my purse for touch-ups, pressed powders are really great to use for touch-ups throughout the day. They don't really alter your makeup or anything like that. So keeping one of these in your purse is a great option. This one from ColourPop is so nice. It's so velvety in texture and very forgiving if you have dry skin or even mature skin. Honorable mention for a pressed powder is the Maybelline Fit Me. You guys know these are iconic. These are a cult classic. This is the one exception to the rule of a pressed powder that I would use under my eye because the formula is so nice and lightweight. I do believe these used to be a little bit heavier to me for some reason, and using them all over my face was a no, but just using this light shade a little bit lightly under my eye, especially on the days I don't have full glam on but I want to look like it, this goes really well. Now with this pressed powder, I still will go in and set my under eye with my loose powder first, very lightly, and then finish it with the pressed powder, and that really just locks in and keeps my under eye from creasing too crazy or looking too oily or separating. So an ultra fine loose powder under my eye, and then I set it with this, and that works wonderfully. And you guys know the Maybelline is super inexpensive, maybe $6 at most. Lastly, our finishing powders, and I like to think of a finishing powder as the cherry on top to your makeup. After your makeup is done, you have on your blush, your bronzer, your foundation is in place, you give your face a nice little spritz of setting or finishing spray, and then you go in with your finishing powder. And finishing powders are the things that give you that nice in real life type of filter on your face. So you don't need a photo filter because you have a nice finishing powder. One of the best ones that I think are really great and have been around for a while is the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish Powder. This is a very lightweight powder. This is not like their powder foundation where it gives you a lot of coverage. This really just gives you a nice airbrush, almost a luminous type of finish to your makeup. I have the shade Medium Deep. I've been using this for years. I can't even tell you how many of these I've gone through, but these just give me such a nice finishing touch to my makeup. It really just gives me a nice airbrush finish look. It should absolutely be no surprise what my favorite finishing powder is because I have about 6 of them, and that is the Sephora Collection Micro Smooth Finishing Powders. These are airbrush in a in a container. I love these formulas so much. It's so lightweight. Every type of skin type can use this. If you're oily, if you're dry, if you have mature skin, fine lines, this is the powder that does not settle anywhere in my fine lines. And I really don't do any makeup application without using them. As you can tell, this one is well worn. After I'm done with my makeup, and I don't have finishing powder on yet, so I'm going to go in with the Sephora powder, and I'm going to show you how well it just adds to the finish of my makeup. And I think I have the shade 20. I want to say 20, I think, in this one. But I have one for contour and bronzing. I have one that is my summer shade. And I have a backup of my everyday shade. And I lied. I have shade 40 and 35. Those are my everyday shades. They recently did a reformulation of these right about the Sephora sale. And they changed the shade numbers. But they gave you more in the package. But I'm just going to show you how well this finishing powder looks. And I'm not taking it over my makeup. I'm taking it around the perimeter of my face on a nice fluffy brush. And I'm just going to finish the rest of my makeup. I waited to use this, and it was so hard not to reach for it when I'm done with my makeup, because it just gives me the nice finish airbrush type of filter. And it's so lightweight that it doesn't move my makeup around. It doesn't disturb it, but it just finishes my face, and it just looks so flawless. So a finishing powder does just that. It's something that it can be, you can use a loose one. There are loose finishing powders. Some people like to use their Laura Mercier type of translucent powder as a finisher, but I prefer something that is more compact, that has some press, but it also has the mineralizing in it, so you have a nice little natural looking glow, but also your makeup just looks really nice and finished. Another one that I've really been loving, surprisingly to me, another beauty blogger that I follow on Instagram, she's about my age or a little bit older than me, and she turned me on to the Kosas Cloud Set powder. This acts like a MAC but mini, and it's lightweight. It's very flattering. It does not settle into my fine lines at all, especially my smile lines. I really like to use this finishing powder on my smile lines and then finish the rest of my face off with like my MAC powder. But this one is so lightweight. It's literally like a cloud. I can even use this under my eye, and it does not give me any cakiness or anything. It's a very nice, very beautiful finishing powder, and you can absolutely take a powder brush and use this all over your face just to set it when your makeup is done, and you will just be looking chef's kiss. Under your eye, for your setting powder under your eye, you want to make sure your concealer has dried down after you blend it in before you go and set it with powder. If your concealer is still a little damp under your eyes or still a little tacky, once you put on that powder, it's going to pick up the concealer under your eyes, and it's going to show everything that you just tried to conceal. I have a bad habit of doing that quickly, and then I'm like, why does my under eye still look brown after I have on my concealer and powder? Because I didn't let it dry down. So after you put your concealer on, let your concealer dry down until it gets a little bit less than tacky, and just go in then with your powder. But going over it while your concealer is still wet is just going to move everything around and erasing all the work that you've already done. If you are going to use your loose powder as your finishing powder, like say your Laura Mercier honey or a banana powder, anything like that, I would not suggest using something too light if you're going to take photos. If you're going to use a translucent powder as a finishing, try to look for one that's closer to your skin tone. If you're using a loose powder, try to look for one that's closer to your skin tone, because if you don't, you can look very ashy very quickly and that's not a good look for anybody, no matter what your age is. Also, if you choose not to do a finishing powder all over your face, but you just want to use it for the areas that you know you get oily in, or you have the most makeup on, like I wear on my cheeks and things, just go over it very lightly with a fluffy brush. Tap off the excess of the powder, and then don't swirl, just tap it in like that over your makeup if you choose to use a loose powder to finish off your makeup versus a compact finishing powder. So I hope that you have enjoyed this quick tutorial and tips on how to use the powders in your makeup application. Trust me, once you get used to it, it is so easy and you're going to love how flawless your makeup is going to look every time. The biggest tip with powder, no matter where you use it, under your eye, on your cheeks, on your face, start slow and build up, because a lot of powder can go really wrong really fast, and we don't want that, right? You can absolutely get a flawless look while using a light hand on your powder. Get a nice fluffy powder brush, get you a little muff. I get the little triangle muffs from Amazon. Y'all see me use the pink ones. I'll link them below, and just experiment a little bit. Find the powder that you really like. I tend to use at least 3 when I'm doing a full face, but every day I might use 1, and I'm definitely using my Sephora Micro Smooth powder almost daily. So if you have any other questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. If you made it this far in the video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, and I will see y'all back here for the next one real soon. Bye.